Welcome to Wellness Talk this week. I am George Batista, your host and your wellness advocate. As always, glad you guys could be with me. And it's always nice to spend some time with you guys to go over the latest on health and healing and nutrition and all that good stuff. So I know you're going to get a lot out of what we share. As always, just make sure that you support us and make sure you like, share, and subscribe to all the shows, or just the channel itself, because it helps us grow. All right. So let's go over the things we're going to talk about this week. We're going to talk about the hidden effects of MSG. And no, we're not talking about Madison Square Garden. We're talking about MSG that's found in food. So this is from Wellness Resources. So we're going to talk about a little bit about MSG. It's not really something I've talked about on this show previously, but it's something that does need to be talked about because it does affect our health. And there's more and more studies that come out on MSG, and I think you guys should know exactly how it affects your health, and what food it's in, and what you can do to actually try to not have as much of it affect your health as possible. You can do a lot of things nutritionally and that type of thing. So we'll talk about that. Then we're going to talk about a study that finds this popular diet is still one of the best at preventing cognitive decline. This is from Health Digest. And what diet are we talking about? We're talking about the Mediterranean diet. So it's a very, very healthy diet. If there is one diet that I would recommend as far as the actual nutritiousness of the food, it would be this diet. So we're going to go over exactly how the Mediterranean diet affects your cognitive health. And it's, again, brand new information on this. Then, kind of piggybacking on that, we're going to talk about daily multivitamin may improve cognition and possibly protect against decline. Studies suggest. Again, this is from Wake Forest University. So, something simple as a multivitamin can actually protect against cognitive decline. Again, this is brand new information out of Wake Forest University. And I think this is very, very helpful because we all know that I talk about taking a multivitamin every single day. I think everybody should be doing it because I just think there's not enough nutrition in one's diet. And, so this is, again, brand new science on it. And this is very clear science. So I think, again, this is great information. So that's pretty much the stuff we're going to go over today. Good stuff to talk about. So let's dive into it. And by the way, before I go on, this show is brought to you by Wellness Resources, a 35-year-old supplement company. It's always on the forefront of clinical nutrition. It's been that way since 1985. Make sure you go to myvitaminresource.com. And if you enter the promo code Counterparts, you will get free shipping on all your orders. Okay. And keep in mind that this is my go-to company for supplements. So make sure you check them out because they have some of the best supplements in the world, in my opinion. All right. So let's start with the article from Wellness Resources, Hidden Effects of MSG. So a little bit about MSG. MSG is one of the most common food additives used by the food industry, and it was actually developed in 1908 in Japan. And it's been used as a flavor enhancer and stabilizer of processed foods. Now, it's it stands for monosodium glutamate, or MSG. It's a sodium salt, and it's artificially combined with the amino acid glutamine. Now, sodium is added to glutamine to make it more stable. So, MSG is manufactured by what's called bacteria fermentation, which may be produced using genetically engineered beets, corn, and other grains and other methods. Okay. So, there's a lot of different foods that do contain MSG. And we're talking about the artificial form of MSG. So, we're talking about fast food, of course. People always equate Chinese food, which does have MSG, processed foods as well, like smoked beets, beef jerky, and other snacks, chips as well. Even chips like Doritos and Pringles. Okay, some trail mix products, some condiments. We have seasonings, blends, and frozen meals, instant noodle and soup mixes, and canned soups. A lot of those contain MSG. So you do have to make sure that you read your labels carefully because sometimes you really may not know if you're not reading the labels if it actually contains MSG or not, especially the artificial MSG. Now, So the amino acid glutamate is found naturally in various foods. Okay, so it's found in foods like kelp and seaweed and fish sauce and soy and even things like Parmesan cheese and oyster sauce. So this is a natural source of MSG. Okay, but the amino acid glutamate also plays several important roles in brain function, and we've talked about that on previous shows. But it helps with alertness, it helps with wakefulness, it helps with the formation and stabilization of nerve connections, memory, learning, and all types of cognitive functions. So, that amino acid glutamate does play an important role in your brain. The problem is that when glutamate can again or when you can have too much glutamate in your brain, this is where you start to have a problem because glutamate is balanced by a neurotransmitter called GABA, and GABA is the relaxant part of your brain. So it's kind of a balance between glutamate and GABA. But the problem is that again, when you have way more glutamate than you have GABA in your brain, this is where you start to get it becomes kind of an excitotoxin to your brain, and this is where you start to get into problems. So antioxidants are one of the things that helps to protect nerves and actually helps the tissues, um, actually helps to bring down the glutamate in tissues. So it actually helps to stabilize the tissues from excess glutamate formation. Very, very important to have antioxidants on board as always, right? So let's talk about how MSG is classified by the FDA. So the FDA has declared that artificial MSG is chemically indistinguishable from natural glutamate present in food proteins, and that glutamate from artificial MSG and natural glutamate, rich foods, are metabolized in the same way. Okay, so they're basically saying that the artificial glutamate that's made artificially, obviously, and the natural glutamate that's found in foods get metabolized the same way. So they don't think it's a big deal. Okay. But the FDA requires that foods containing added MSG are listed on the ingredients panel of packaging as monosodium glutamate. But to them, again, this form of glutamate is not a big deal to them. It's actually it's actually classified as something that is generally recognized as safe. So now, again, we have MSG that naturally occurs in ingredients such as hydrolyzed vegetable protein, hydrolyzed yeast, yeast extracts, soy extracts, protein isolate, as well as tomatoes and cheeses. Now, again, while the FDA requires that these products be listed on the ingredient panel, the agency does not require the label to specify that they naturally contain MSG. So, foods with any ingredients that naturally contain MSG cannot claim no MSG or no added MSG on their packaging. So, MSG also cannot be listed as spices or flavoring. So, that's just how things are need to be labeled, and legally how food manufacturers have to label things on, as far as their foods and that type of thing. So but again, because MSG is regarded as what's called GRAS, or generally recognized as safe, again, it's not considered a big deal. The problem is that there have been, and ever since this has been an issue or ever since this artificial MSG has been around, there have been reports of adverse symptoms triggered by MSG that have occurred for decades. But there's always a controversy, okay? Because the symptoms of MSG are hard to prove because they mimic a lot of other things. And, of course, scientists and food manufacturers are saying, well, no, it doesn't come from MSG. It can come from anywhere else as well. So this is where you kind of get the push and pull of, well, is it safe or is it not safe? That type of argument. Now, but let's talk a little bit about the common reactions to MSG. So these are the symptoms that are typically found from MSG reactions. So you have like headache, you have flushing, you have sweating, face pressure or tightness, lack of feeling, numbness, tingling, burning in the face, neck, or other areas. You have fluttering heartbeats, chest pain, you have nausea or weakness, even jaw muscle tightness or increased blood pressure. These are all considered common reactions to MSG, especially when you're eating a lot of it from processed foods. Okay. So these are things you have to think about. Okay. People obviously sometimes will not equate it to the MSG that they're eating on a regular basis. Now, so MSG's toxic effects have also been found with unborn children, okay, in adolescents and adults as well. It's been linked with increased blood pressure and gastrointestinal tract disturbances. Now, MSG induced kidney and liver oxidative stress in animals has been shown as well. So they've done research on animals and they found that it increased body weight, it increased cholesterol, there was imbalances in cholesterol, and there was other cellular changes and inflammatory reactions regardless of the amount of MSG that was consumed. Now, there was a 2022 animal study that identified that MSG, the use of MSG, induced injury to the spleen, another immune system organ, right? Okay, because spleen is very heavily involved in the immune system. And animals fed MSG versus high fat diet and MSG both experienced significant oxidative stress, inflammation, and mitochondrial dysfunction. So now let's talk a little bit about thyroid and mitochondria in terms of MSG. So there was other animal studies that also demonstrated that even in small doses, MSG stressed the thyroid gland. Okay, and it also altered the appearance of mitochondria in the thyroid gland. We all know that mitochondria is the cell engines of pretty much everything in your body. So it actually altered the appearance and actually led to cellular changes in mitochondria and in the thyroid gland. So again, very significant. There was another 2021 animal research study that confirmed that MSG induced obesity. It led to hypothalamic inflammation and central leptin resistance. Okay, we know that leptin is one of the main hormones in your body that tells your body when you've had enough energy after you've eaten or when you get the full signal. Okay, now one of the things that it did in this animal study is that it changed the neurological function and increased brain inflammation. So this led to poor leptin hormone function and then weight gain. So again, just more evidence of what MSG can do. Now there was more findings that showed that when MSG was combined with aspartame, which is another toxic substance, by the way, the adverse effects were even more pronounced. So, abdominal fat, cholesterol levels, fasting blood sugar, tumor necrosis factor alpha, and other inflammatory markers were affected and increased when they were fed MSG with aspartame. Now, aspartame, you generally find it in drinks and carbonated beverages and that type of thing. So, again, just more and more information on this as more studies come out. So, when MSG or artificial MSG was introduced, well over 100 years ago, food was generally grown locally, okay? And it was consumed in whole form and had very little processing. But now, because of GMO and hydrolyzed foods, as well as other fast foods that are, very, very calorie rich and they have high fat, high sugar, and poor nutrient content, MSG just, you have MSG on top of that, it just makes it that much worse because again, the standard American diet, highly, highly processed with MSG on top of it. It's really no surprise that we're getting things like cognitive decline, weight gain, and just all different types of conditions and different things that people are dealing with. Okay, so how do we protect against MSG and MSG stress? Okay, so obviously reduction and or avoidance of artificial MSG is the best way, to not deal with the effects of MSG on your body in the first place, right? So you have to make it a habit to read labels. You really do, especially when you're getting that artificial stuff, when you're getting frozen stuff, when you're getting, packaged foods, even Chinese food, those types of things. Read your labels. By the way, a lot of these Asian places, even the Asian places that I've gone to, they actually have. I know that not all of them have it, but many of them have actual a section that's a healthier diet and it says contains no MSG. So if you're interested in not, dealing with MSG or not consuming MSG, check to see if they have a healthy diet section that says contains no MSG. Many of them do. So it's something to think about. Now, there have been several nutrients that have been found to be helpful in cell and animal studies to thwart the oxidative stress that comes with the use of MSG. So let's go over them. So, turmeric is one, green tea is another, ginkgo, another one, taurine, arginine, which are amino acids, vitamin D in good amounts, by the way. Vitamin C, we all know one of the big antioxidants. Vitamin E, very, very important, another antioxidant. Quercetin. Quercetin is very good. Probiotics for the gut, and ginger for overall inflammation. Okay. And there's been some others as well, but these are the top choices for making sure that you have enough nutrients, again, to clamp down on the inflammation and the inflammation markers that MSG causes. So it's very, very important to make sure you have that. Again, antioxidants, extremely important in this whole thing. So just some things to think about when it comes in terms of MSG. Again, this is just more and more science coming out on it. There's been a lot of research on it the past few years, but the more you can avoid it, the better you will do. And I think the healthier you will be. Okay. So just make sure you keep those things in mind. Okay. Next, study finds this popular diet is still one of the best at preventing, sorry, cognitive decline. So this is from the Health Digest, and they're talking about the Mediterranean diet. Okay, so let's go over it. So the study specifically focused on metabolites or small molecules in the blood that are directly associated with diet and how their levels impact cognitive function. Now, by identifying specific metabolites that are associated with diet, researchers say that they can better determine what makes up a healthier diet. And they can also use these metabolites as markers to measure the success of an improved diet, potentially reducing the risk of cognitive decline. Okay. So the study was conducted across various racial and ethnic groups, and they wanted to study how it impacted your cognitive function. So they studied the Mediterranean diet. Okay. Now the diet, those of you who may not know about the Mediterranean diet, it's a diet is primarily comprised of like plant-based foods and lots of vegetables and nuts and fruits, seeds, whole grains, small amounts of fish, seafood, dairy, but little or no red meat. And, it's very low in refined sugars. And the primary oil that is used, or the primary fat that is used in there, is olive oil. Okay. And the diets gained popularity around the 1950s because they have found that certain areas or certain populations who were eating this type of diet had very low levels of heart disease. And they did studies on this Mediterranean, and this is why they call it the Mediterranean diet, because in areas that were in the Mediterranean, that they found that these people were eating this diet, especially in areas near Italy and those areas where people were actually eating these diets had very low levels of heart disease and just overall disease, right? Also cognitive decline. So, but this study showed that the more people who ate this Mediterranean diet, the more it affected um, your cognition, meaning that the less impact it had, and the better your cognition was. Okay, so it definitely supported brain health. Was basically okay. Now keep in mind that this study was published in Alzheimer's and dementia. Okay, so these folks are looking at just diet itself and how it affected these little markers, these little molecules and markers in the blood, in terms of how these markers affect your cognitive health. Okay, so this is true science here. This is really, really good science. They're actually looking at these little molecules and these little metabolites in your blood and how they would affect your cognitive decline or lack thereof. So good news on the Mediterranean diet. I think it's a very, very good diet to eat, or at least if you can get close to it. Again, any diet that has an abundance of fruits and vegetables in it, and a lower refined sugars and lower red meats is a good diet in my book. And there could be many versions of this diet. I personally tend to try to eat this way as much as I can. This is kind of the way I eat for the most part. I eat a lot of fish. I eat a lot of fruits and vegetables. I do eat meat, but I eat again, it's more of an 80-20 type thing. I try to, there are many, many days throughout the week that I don't eat meat. And there are some days that I do. When I do eat meat, I eat lean chicken, lean turkey. I eat some really good fish, lots of fruits and vegetables. Okay. I eat my salads. I love a good salad. I do use olive oil on my salad, not a lot, but I use just some to kind of get that flavor in there. And, low on the refined sugars, and I don't eat red meat. It's pretty much that simple. I leave space between my meals, and I have 3 meals a day. It's very simple and it works for me. Um, Again, I'm not a person who says that you have to eat a specific diet and that diet cures all, because that's just never been my way of doing things. But I think, again, this is one of the diets as far as just having the most nutrition in it, because it's a diet that has a lot of antioxidants. And and this is the kind of diet you want to make sure that you keep yourself as healthy as possible. So just something to think about in terms of diet and cognitive decline. Good news for this. So just keep that in mind. All right, next. Daily multivitamin may improve cognition and possibly protect against decline or cognitive decline. And this is again out of Wake Forest University. So, again, this is more information regarding cognition and brain health. Okay. So, this was according to the new research, brand new research from Wake Forest University School of Medicine. And they say taking a daily supplement may improve cognition in older adults. Now, this was very, very interesting. This was actually out of the Brigham and Women's Hospital in Boston. So, again, these findings were recently published in the Alzheimer's and Dementia Journal. And according to this, it was according to this, first of all, Alzheimer's, there's more than 6.5 million Americans living with Alzheimer's disease, and 1 in 3 seniors die with the disease or another form of dementia. Now, you don't have to go down that path. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about it. Okay. So in this study, they first of all, there was a randomized study of 21,000 men and women across the United States. And they did this was very interesting actually, because they studied a couple of things. They studied whether taking a daily cocoa extract. Now, cocoa extract is where dark chocolate is made, right? It's like a powdered form. If you get it in its purest form, it's the powdered form. It's what's in dark, chocolate or dark chocolate. Okay, so they use the cocoa extract or a daily multivitamin mineral supplement. Okay. And they found that taking this daily multivitamin mineral supplement actually reduced the risk of developing heart disease, stroke, cancer, and other outcomes. But they also tested on 2,200 participants aged 65 and older. They were enrolled for 3 years, and they tested them over the telephone. This was an annual, they tested them annually to evaluate memory and other cognitive abilities. And they showed that the taking of a daily multivitamin mineral supplement resulted in statistically significant cognitive improvement. Now, the question is, how statistically significant was it? Okay. Well, the researchers estimated that 3 years of the multivitamin supplementation roughly translated to, get this, 60% slowing of cognitive decline. Again, that's 60% slowing of cognitive decline. Okay. The benefits were relatively more pronounced in participants with significant cardiovascular disease, which is important because these individuals are already at increased risk for cognitive impairment and decline. So think about that for a second. 60%. That's huge. What drug can do that? What pharmaceutical drug has that kind of impact where it actually slows down the cognitive decline with with hardly no or any side effects. This is just a multivitamin. And this is what I'm saying about being, this is a simple thing. This is a very simple thing that you can do. Just taking a good multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement can actually have this kind of impact. And we all know that multivitamins and vitamins tend to be demonized and that type of thing. Of course, that they're going to do that because there's a lot of money involved, and there's a whole train of pharmaceuticals and interests that go into that. But just taking a simple supplement, and this is why I'm saying that this is just a simple thing you can do. I mean, how much could a multivitamin, multi-mineral supplement cost you each month? If you just took that, let's say, what, 25, $30 a month if you get a really, really good one, right? And you take maybe 2 a day with meals. I mean, that's the minimal that I say anyway. Why? Because it what will the multivitamin do? It's not going to perform miracles. No, the whole point of the multivitamin is to protect against gaps in your diet. So if you do not eat specifically good on a particular day, then the multivitamin will make up for that to give you the nutrients that you need that you didn't get from your diet that day. Very, very simple. Very simple concept. Okay. So I recommend everybody do that. Again, just to make sure you're getting everything that's needed. This whole thing that you can get all this from your food is just unfortunately not true. First, and how I know that. Think about here's a concept to think about. How many of the people that you know in your life eat 3 to 5 servings of fruits and vegetables every day? Think about it. How many people do you know that actually eat that every single day? I guarantee you it's not many, if any. I don't even know that people in my circles that eat that way. So the thing is, and even if a person does eat that way, let's just say they do, okay? Because there is so little nutrients, or the nutrients is literally almost half of what it used to be 100 years ago, they're not going to get what a multivitamin would give them. They're not going to get the 100% nutrients that they need to make sure that they cover everything. This is why it is very, very important to protect against those gaps. And a multivitamin can do that. But think about it, 60% against cognitive decline. And there's multiple studies on heart disease and all different types of things with just a simple multivitamin. So the message is, just do this as much as you can. Take a multivitamin if you at all possibly can. I of course recommend the Daily Energy multivitamin from Wellness Resources. That's the one I've used for the last 16 years, and I feel great taking it. My family takes it, and I've worked with many people, and I recommend that one. But you can choose to try that one. I always recommend it, but if not, try whichever you can. But just take something, because I guarantee you, um, you're doing your body something good, and you're giving your body the nutrition that it needs on a daily basis if you do that for the rest of your life. It's not a magic bullet, but at least it's a start in the right direction, as to making sure that you grow old gracefully. And you combine that with eating good food and doing a little bit of exercise, you're on your way. All right. So just keep that in mind. All right. So I want to thank you guys for joining me this week. Hope you guys have a fantastic week. Make sure you take care of yourselves and each other. Make sure you go to georgebatista.com to check out all the articles that we go over. Take care of yourselves, everyone. And as always, control your health. Have a great day.